Hello everyone, Dominic again here. I recently came across a method of viewing the world in a way that is structured and coherent and ensures a logical consistency that I think everyone should know. It is called the topological metaphor, and I recently came across it, and I've noticed that there are not any videos on YouTube describing or teaching the topological metaphor. So I'm going to make a video teaching this subject, as I think I have a very firm grasp on it. I'm pretty sure that it's an ancient way of viewing the world, and nowadays mainstream academia mainly uses it in things like ontology and sociology to understand how various boundaries or civilizations or corporations or groups of people interact within a shared medium, which would be the earth. And I learned it personally from a person named Joseph P. Farrell, and he does have a PhD in theology, I think. But I'm going to be explaining his concept of the topological metaphor, which he also attributes to ancient thinking, such as coming out of Egypt, coming out of Hermeticism. And it essentially is analyzing things from a top-down perspective, recognizing that everything within existence shares a shared existence, and because they all share this existence together, everything is interacting with each other in a way that is interconnected, regardless of the fact that we draw boundaries within existence. And these boundaries are transmuting information, which is the metaphor, amongst each other, which are interacting with each other in various ways. So, in order to understand this, there are essentially 4 stages that are all interconnected. They're basically what I call macro folds within this eternal substrate. So first we have to understand what the eternal substrate is. It is pretty much being in a Parmenides sense. Everywhere in existence is graced by the same medium, which is eternal. It is ever present, and nothing can exist without it. It is basically described as a flat plane or something, or maybe a more sophisticated space, but it is referred to as the primordial, and even in Aboriginal cultures, for example, they'll call it like the eternal spirit. So from this eternal substrate or medium, you create folds within it. And this creates the second layer. And this is what Farrell refers to as the geometric stage. And within the geometric stage, you have laws that we think of as things like the laws of gravity, things like the laws of entropy, or the other laws of thermodynamics. And these things create boundaries or folds within the eternal medium that is ever present. And they create contained areas within it where they are essentially controlling the information within it to conform to something that is not the pure state of the primordial. And then within these macro folds, known as the geometric stage, you get the third stage, which would be things like matter or the material. So because we exist in a universe where there are laws interacting with each other, such as the laws of logic, physical laws are not the only folds within this manifold or this overarching eternal medium. Because we exist within these boundaries of these macro folds, we are a microfold within this macro fold. And because of this, we can navigate within this macro fold that is connected to the eternal medium. And because it is connected to the eternal medium, we as material beings are also connected to the eternal medium. There's no separation at all amongst stages. All there is folds, and these folds create boundaries which influence how existence operates within these boundaries. And so from the third stage to the fourth stage, humans, for example, can create what Farrell calls metaphors. So the fourth stage is things like thoughts, psychological emotions, things like this, things that are psychic in nature. They come from our mind, but they become real. These are things like money, things like governments or religion, or it could even be like your job and the hierarchy within your job. These are ideas that we use and come up with to navigate the macro fold we find ourselves within, and to coordinate ourselves as microfolds within the macro fold. So we use these thoughts in the fourth stage to coordinate us as biological agents in the third stage, so that we can best coordinate and act in the second stage, which is made up of an ever-present medium, the primordial or the first stage. So within this framework, everything is interconnected and can be explained through a series of how the boundaries we create interact with each other. And this brings me to the next phase of the topological metaphor, which is that when we create boundaries within these folds, they are not self-contained. For example, you could exist within your house, which has boundaries of the fence line, and you exist adjacent to several neighbors who also have the same boundaries or similar boundaries. While you exist within a contained state, you ultimately exist within one neighborhood or one city or one country. It is the fact that what you do is not isolated. So these boundaries that we draw are constantly interacting with each other in the form of the flow of information, which is referred to as the metaphor. And when this information meets, it meets on an even playing field or a neutral playing field that is basically the realm of action. Now, I say neutral, even though it might not always be neutral. For example, if you're trying to fight the cops, you're going to be at a disadvantage, and it's not so neutral. But the point is that you, within your boundary, decided to create folds within it that brought the attention of the cops within your boundary, thus creating a middle ground where information that you created is intersecting with the police, whose job is to stop whatever it is that you might have done, stop lawbreakers. So, in order to understand this better, we can think of an example like a sports game, like a football game, for example. In a football game, you have to have a shared medium. This shared medium is the field. The field does not dictate how to play, only where to play. It's designed for football, for example, maybe, but you could do other things on it. You could just, play soccer, or maybe you can just run up and down it for fun or for exercise. But from here on, two teams meet at the field of play, and the field of play is the primordial. They agree upon rules, which are enforced typically through officials. So the rules are the folds that dictate how the game is going to be played. And then from there, you have the third stage, which is actually the players. The players themselves who exist within this set of rules, playing on this shared medium, the field. And then from there, you have the coaches who come up with plays, which are basically ideas or psychic energy that people devote time and effort to coming up with to coordinate how best to play within the field. And this dictates, for example, if the defense is trying to press up on the offense to contain the receivers, well, then they're trying to create a closed system where the receivers are bound to the defense's flow of information. Or I should say, the defense is restricting the offense's information by impeding their routes and interfering with their ability to run routes. And from this perspective, we can look at the world and see it's made up of the same systems. We all exist on a shared medium, the earth or the universe. We all exist within macro folds that we as human beings cannot change, such as the law of gravity or the law of whatever, entropy. We come across various other microfolds within this macrofold in the form of humans or animals or trees. And though we exist within our contained body or boundary, we are interconnected through our actions and the shared world. And furthermore, human beings, at least, have the ability to create ideas which become living and basically coordinate how the micro interacts in the macro. And there is also a fifth stage. However, it's not really a fifth stage. It's more of an inversion. It's what happens when the ideas begin to take over and they begin to form their own purposes completely separate from the biological agents which form them. And when this happens, the ideas begin to take over the biological agents, or the fourth stage begins to take over the third stage. And from there, it begins to rewrite the folds of the second stage, or things like the laws of gravity or the laws of entropy, and completely separate us from the first stage. This is the fifth stage. It's a complete inversion and the reversal of all these things. And that is the topological metaphor.